Welcome to the Infuse Compassion podcast, hosted by me, Amy Quisenberry.
And me, Mark Carpenter.
We are on a mission to make this world a kinder place for us all by bringing healthier human connection to communities, families, and organizations of all types and sizes.
Our goal is to create stronger relationships, more inspired teams, increased trust, and improved results.
So let's get started with more ways to infuse compassion into our world.
Welcome, Compassionators, to this edition of Infuse Compassion podcast. Amy and I are going to talk about what we learned, what we took away from our conversation in the last episode with Randy McNeeley, who has, I just think, the best title in the world, Captain Kindman. That's so cool. And I love that he told the story about how he was given that title by other people. Mm-hmm. Amy, I just want to start off getting your perspective. What were your major takeaways from the conversation that we had with Captain Kindman, aka Randy McNeeley?
Yeah, it was so powerful and profound in its simplicity. That's what I loved about it. And first of all, I just want to say that Randy his soul is so beautiful and his intentions are so pure. It's just wonderful to be in his space. So if you haven't watched that episode, please go watch that, listen to that, and then come back and listen to this one. But, you know, so, some of the things that I heard him talk about, you know, the phrase, the power of one, kept coming up in my mind. Because there was one point where he said, you know, I'm just one guy. I'm just one guy. And he kind of got himself stuck where I think so many people do in this spot as, but what can I do? And then he stopped and he said, well, I can start to make a difference. I can step into the shoes of a kindness hero and look for opportunities to show and share kindness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. That's amazing, isn't it? And it's such an interesting concept too. I was trying to think and I just looked it up. There's some quote about I'm only one, but I am one. Mm-hmm. I can't do everything, but I can do something.
Yeah.
You know, and I it's being variously attributed as I'm looking it up here, but that was the thought that I had around that. I'm only one, but you are one.
You are one,
and don't discount the one that you are. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes people do that, particularly around topics like kindness. They say, well, there's so many problems in the world today. What can little old me do about that? Mm-hmm. But what we can do is to take the steps for those closest to us, mm-hmm. and see if that can ripple out to other people. So yeah, I love that thought about the kindness begins with one.
Yeah. And he also spoke about that, you know, I loved the random acts of kindness piece where he called that out. And he said, there are no random acts of kindness. You're actually making a choice. You're making a choice to be kind or not, right? But it's not random. You are making a choice. And I loved the power of that and how he said in every interaction, we are sending a message. What do you want that message to be? He wants his to be positive messages.
Yeah. And he uses one of my favorite words, and you called it out, if I remember right, in the podcast episode, intentionality. Yeah. It's about being intentional about being kind. You know, he went through that 5 steps that he has of that kindness formula to keep us going on kindness. And I think I try to be kind, but I loved the detail of his intentionality that you wake up in the morning and you look yourself in the mirror and you say, today I am going to be kind. and then sit down and think about, what am I doing today and where are there opportunities for me to look for chances to be kind?
Yeah.
Where could I do that? Because that takes it from being random to
Yeah.
being intentional, deliberate acts of kindness that can make a difference for others.
And this was big. I'd never heard this prior. That piece that you're talking about, which is, not only do you set the intention at the beginning of the day, right? You're literally setting an intention, but then you put this middle spot of, now sit down and think about all of the planned interactions that you know are going to happen today. And then think through some ways that you can show up as more kind to these people. Then step 3, don't forget to be present, because in the moment, be open, be aware of how you can be kind in that moment. You can do 4, but I've got to do 5. Can I just do 5 if I give you 4?
You can do both 4 and 5.
Are you sure?
Go for it.
Okay. So 4, invite others to do the same. Okay, now I want to talk about this. Before we go on to 5, I want to talk about this for just a minute, because a lot of what I heard Randy talking about is connection and community. It's kindness is literally a magic wand to create more community and connection. Now, this is the piece, blue zones. Have you heard of a blue zone before, Mark?
No, describe what that is.
So blue zones are places across the planet where there is an increased number of people that live extremely long lives, and they're prospering in their extremely long lives. Now, there's a list of like 9 things that impact this, but one of those is community.
Yeah.
Having a community, and a meaningful community that you're connecting with, that you're growing with, that you're learning from, the community. That is the piece that I loved about when we're inviting people into this beautiful world of infusing kindness, infusing compassion. Before I go to 5, anything to add on that?
Yeah, the only part that I was going to add to that was, I often think, well, just by doing an act of kindness, that it automatically will encourage others to do it. But there is something about an invitation to a commitment, that when we invite somebody to say, yes, I will do this, that makes it more likely that it's going to happen. That's part of that commitment cycle that you can take people through. And so I really loved that step was in there as well.
Well, and before I go to 5, I want to stay on that, because he actually told the story of a woman that he invited her, just like you said. He gave her an invitation. Well, I first of all, I love the piece where he said, yeah, there's a lot of data on this, but go get your own data. You practice it. And so he invited this woman who was really struggling in her life. He invited this woman to do 7 days of kindness. And he said for her, it was transformational. Yeah. I mean, she realized, this is actually where the blue zones came to my mind. She realized that at work, there were so many amazing people that she worked with, but until she slowed down, got present, got intentional, she didn't see them. And she didn't connect with them until she took this kindness challenge, the 7-day kindness challenge. Sorry, you wanted to say something.
No, I was just going to say that intentionality gets us beyond that blindness. Yeah. That it helps us to really look for and see where those opportunities are, because we're being intentional about making that step, about taking the kindness step. I was glad you brought up the point about the research too, because that really jumped out to me. The best research you can do is your own research.
That's
right. You can read statistics, you can read information about it, but go out and do your own research and see what the impact is on you and on those closest to you.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So number five, we've been talking about it for a few minutes now. I loved this. He said, at the end of the day, write down what you experienced. Really, well, he said, first of all, sit down, reflect on what you experienced, and then write about it. And he talked about that having this journal when you're having, I may be adding some things he didn't say, but this is what I took away from it. When you're having those days where maybe the spark within you is a little dull, you can go back and read those journals, and that it's so inspirational to be able to read this and get that feeling back because you were there. And oh my gosh, that's right. Wow. Wow. And I thought that was so powerful. So that's the 5 steps. Again, if you haven't listened to the podcast, go back and give it, because we're just giving little samplings. You really want to hear Randy's version, right?
Yeah, you want to hear Randy's voice on this, and
Yeah.
because he's personally living it. And I love that point about writing it down the day of.
Mm.
I am guilty of being the one who says, that was such a good experience, I'll remember it.
Mm.
And I try to hold it here in my head.
Mm-hmm.
But there's power in writing it out, and even reliving that moment as you write it out reinforces it within you and does help you remember it better, so that you may not even have to go back and look at it, but by writing it out, it reinforces that in your brain so you can call it to mind when you need it, when you need that boost.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. So those are some of the things that I took away. What about you? Was there anything, and I know we've talked about a lot already, but was there anything that I didn't mention that you wanted to add?
Well, you and I are so aligned on how we think about these topics that my main points were the same main points that you were making, and you were asking questions that I was getting ready to ask Randy in the moment too. Those are the main takeaways, and I don't want to take anything else away from Randy's version of it. I don't want anybody to listen to this and go, "Oh, okay, good. Now I don't have to go back and listen to Randy," because I want them to hear his story of how he got there.
Mm-hmm.
We all have a path. I'll circle back to something you said toward the beginning too. It is so refreshing to see people intentionally building kindness in the world. And that's one of the missions that Randy has, is to find those people that have intentionally built organizations or practices that help increase kindness in the world. And that's what we're about. That's why we call this infuse compassion. We don't want it to just kind of spread out. We want it inside people. We want to infuse that compassion within people. And it's great that we're doing something, but it's really awesome to go out and see how many people are making those intentional efforts, build humanity in the world, and to counter some of the struggles that are going on within the world. Because the only way we're going to overcome it is treating each other more like humans, treating the humanity within us.
Yeah, I think that's such a key point. And I want to talk a minute about Randy, just the human being that he is, because you and I, we've had the pleasure of interacting with him multiple times, right? And the thing that's so special about Randy is a lot about what you just talked about. And that's, he's this connector. He's this, like, it's not, he realizes I'm only one. Okay. But he is taking his message, his way of being, and he is using it. I was just on his podcast, and one of the things that I described was like, when you think of two magnets that are coming together, okay, you get magnets close enough and boom, they're like this, right? If you've ever done that experiment where they're boom, right? That's what Randy's doing with people that are in the world of kindness and compassion and doing good work is he's this incredible guy that's making these connections, and all these magnets are connecting to form this mega center of compassionate people. And it's just so incredible. And I love that he is like, yeah, I'm only one, but look at me now, because I got a whole army of what we're going to call them compassionators here, Randy. I hope that's okay. We got a whole army of compassionators right here with me, right? That's so powerful. I love that.
Yeah. And as we go on, I look forward to the time where we get some comments and messages from our compassionators about what they're doing too.
Oh, yeah.
And I can foresee a day when our guest is just going to be a compassionator that we heard from, because we learned that they did something to infuse compassion in the world, and we want to talk to them about their journey, because we all have a journey that's gotten us here and that's moving us forward along that compassion path, if you will.
I love that. I love that. Well, I feel like we've talked about a lot. We talked about things that were important to us that we heard. We talked about Randy. I say we bring it to a close.
I'm totally with you on that. I just, if we say any more, I feel like we're taking away from Randy's episode, and I don't want to do that.
That's
and
right.
I don't want to just repeat for our compassionators who listened to the last episode what we're doing in this episode. So my end thought, and then I'll give you a chance for your end thought to wrap us up here, Amy. My end thought is just keep in mind those daily practices of kindness. Kindness for others, and Randy mentioned this too, also kindness to yourself. That be kind to yourself as a daily practice as well. The more you make that a daily practice, the more you have more of those not random acts of kindness, but those intentional acts of kindness that can change the world.
That's right. Yeah, I love that as a closing thought. I'll share what I opened with, and that is about the power of one. You may only be one, but my dears, you are a powerful one. Don't underestimate yourself. All right. You are a powerful one. And so with that, I want to encourage everybody to infuse compassion into yourself, into the world around you. Thanks for listening. And we hope to see you at our next episode. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Infuse Compassion podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, please share a review and like the podcast so other compassionators can join us. Until next time, let's all do something each day to infuse compassion into the world. For more information on our guests, see the show notes. For more information on Mark and Amy, go to infusecompassion.com.